Imagine you are walking down the street, distracted, when suddenly you see a word written on a wall, a word that at that specific moment in your life seems to have been written just for you. Maybe it's the name of someone you haven't seen in years, or perhaps, minutes after thinking of a person you haven't spoken to in ages, your phone rings, and it's exactly that person. Or maybe you are going through a tough time, questioning the direction of your life, and then, out of nowhere, a song starts playing, and it says exactly what you needed to hear. Have you ever experienced something like this? Most people have gone through moments like these, but they have learned to dismiss them. It's just a coincidence, they say. The mind tries to rationalize, explaining everything with logic, statistics, chance. Because admitting that there is something beyond this, something that challenges control, that escapes reason, is deeply uncomfortable. But Carl Gustav Jung did not dismiss these moments. Quite the opposite. He investigated them deeply. He observed, documented, reflected, and he came to a conclusion that still challenges the paradigms of modern science. These coincidences are not coincidences. They are synchronicities, acausal connections between external events and internal states, as if the universe is responding to us, guiding us, alerting us. Jung saw these synchronicities happen repeatedly in critical moments: career changes, relationship breakups, encounters with people who would transform the course of life. He realized that the closer someone got to their inner truth, to their individuation, as he called it, the more frequent and intense these coincidences became. It was as if reality was in constant dialogue with the soul, just waiting for us to learn to listen. But there is a problem. We live in a culture that distrusts everything that cannot be measured. We are taught to trust only what can be quantified, tested, reproduced in a lab. Anything outside this model is labeled as superstition, magical thinking, delusion. So we learn to silence the most intuitive part of ourselves. We ignore the signs, the symbols, the dreams. We call chance what, deep down, carries a profound calling. This video is an invitation to reverse this process, to take off the blindfold of excessive rationality and face a frightening but liberating possibility. Life is trying to communicate with you all the time, but it doesn't shout, it whispers, and you need to learn to listen. If you have ever felt that certain coincidences were too significant to be random, if you have ever had the feeling that the universe was conspiring for something to happen, or if, at this moment, you are watching this video and thinking, why did I click here? Perhaps that is not a coincidence either. Carl Jung believed that synchronicity is one of the most mysterious and beautiful ways in which the collective unconscious, this invisible network that connects all things, manifests itself. And perhaps, just perhaps, the fact that you are here now, listening to these words, is your first step toward learning to respond when life calls. Because it is calling. And the question is, will you answer? Carl Jung was not an ordinary man. He was not satisfied with understanding the human being solely through Cartesian logic or the limits of neuroscience. Jung delved deep into territories that traditional psychology avoided: dreams, symbols, mythology, alchemy, religion, and of course, the mysteries of the unconscious. It was precisely in this dive that he encountered a phenomenon that could not be explained by the scientific models of his time: synchronicity. Unlike causality, which is the idea that every effect has a linear and predictable cause, synchronicity breaks this logic. According to Jung, there are events that happen simultaneously with internal psychic states without a causal connection between them, but whose joint occurrence carries a profound meaning for the individual experiencing them. It is as if the inner world and the outer world align momentarily to convey a message, a code, a call. Jung referred to this as acausal events laden with meaning. He was not talking about superstition or magic. He was speaking of something he observed countless times in his practice. Cases like that of the skeptical patient who, while describing a dream about a golden scarab, a symbol of transformation in Egyptian mythology, had the session interrupted by a noise at the window. Jung got up, opened the window, and there it was. A scarab, real, pushing against the glass, a rare insect in that region. The patient, impacted by the coincidence, broke through an emotional barrier and finally opened up to the therapeutic process. This, for Jung, was synchronicity in action. The science of the time, and in many ways even today, lacked the conceptual framework to absorb this type of phenomenon. The mechanistic model, inherited from the Enlightenment, is based on predictability, repetition, control. But synchronicity escapes these criteria. It is unique, symbolic, and deeply subjective. It cannot be reproduced in a laboratory, but it can transform a life, and that is why it is so frightening. Jung realized that synchronicity is more than a psychological phenomenon. It is an expression of a deeper order of reality, something that connects everything: mind, matter, time, and space. And here comes a crucial point. Inspired by his conversations with physicist Wolfgang Pauli, one of the founders of quantum mechanics, Jung began to consider that perhaps the universe is not made up solely of matter, but also of meaning. And this meaning manifests not only in what happens, but also in when and how it happens. This thought was, and still is, revolutionary, because it removes the human being from the role of passive observer of the world and places them as part of a dynamic and interconnected system, where external events can reflect internal states, and the universe can respond to the individual psyche. Jung was not proposing a new religion. He did not want people to blindly believe in synchronicities. He wanted them to observe, perceive, and feel, to let go of automatic skepticism and consider the possibility that there is a deeper intelligence operating behind the scenes of reality. And here is what bothers modern science the most: the idea that not everything can or should be explained rationally. Some experiences exist to be lived, not dissected. And that is precisely what synchronicities offer us: a direct experience with the mystery, a glimpse of something greater than ourselves, a chance to feel that life is leading us somewhere, even if we do not know exactly where. But when do these signs appear? How can we know if we are facing a synchronicity or just an ordinary coincidence? That is where things get even more interesting, because Jung realized that synchronicities intensify precisely when we are about to change course. Now, I want to make a quick announcement. You can become a member of the channel and unlock exclusive benefits while supporting our work. Thank you all for your support. We'll keep bringing new insights and even better content your way. There are moments in life when everything seems on the verge of a break. You feel a strange restlessness, as if something is about to happen. The things that once made sense start to feel empty. People disappear. Others appear out of nowhere. The job that seemed stable begins to bother you. The relationship that felt secure starts to shake. Deep down, you feel that you're being pushed out of an invisible comfort zone, even if you don't yet know where you're going. It is precisely in these moments that synchronicities begin to emerge strongly. Like flashing lanterns on a dark road, they don't tell you exactly what to do, but point out that there is something to be perceived. Jung observed that these meaningful coincidences tend to multiply during periods of transition, when a new phase of life is about to begin, when we are ready to meet someone who will change our trajectory, or when a forgotten part of ourselves is about to awaken. These transitions are often unplanned. Life rarely gives advance notice, but it signals, and that's when the signs appear, not in an obvious way but symbolically. A book that falls from the shelf, an animal that appears repeatedly, a number that you start to see everywhere, a phrase spoken by a stranger that seems to have been taken directly from your mind. What Jung discovered, and what few truly understand, is that the collective unconscious, this deep layer of the psyche shared by all humanity, conspires with the external world to provoke our awakening. It does not operate through logic. It speaks through symbols, images, impulses, and impossible coincidences. Imagine someone who is going through a deep crisis, feeling lost. One day, for no apparent reason, they decide to enter a bookstore they have never visited. Inside, they feel an inexplicable urge to pick up a random book. Upon opening it, they come across a paragraph that describes exactly what they are feeling, as if someone had written it for them. From there, a transformation begins. Not because the book has magical power, but because something inside them was ready to listen, and the universe responded. These moments are not trivial. They are not products of chance. They are calls, silent invitations from the unconscious for you to wake up, pay attention, and reconnect with your true path. But they only work if you are willing to listen. And that is what differentiates those who change their lives from those who remain stagnant, the ability to recognize a call when it arrives. The problem is that most people are deaf to this kind of language. The rational mind, trained to doubt everything that does not fit conventional logic, dismisses these signs as irrelevant. We lose our symbolic sensitivity. We do not learn to read the world as a mirror of our soul. And when that happens, the signs keep happening, but go unnoticed. It's like receiving love letters and never opening the envelopes. But why are we like this? Why do we disconnect from this natural navigation system that is always trying to guide us? The answer lies in social conditioning. We have been taught to ignore everything that cannot be proven. We have learned to trust only in logic, reason, and control. And in doing so, we become blind and deaf to the oldest language of existence, the language of symbols, instinct, and intuition. In the next part, we will expose how this cultural conditioning has distanced us from the ability to listen to life, and why it keeps us trapped in an empty, anxious, and disconnected existence. Have you ever stopped to wonder why some people seem to live in harmony with life, while others walk as if they are constantly lost, confused, disconnected? The answer is not luck, nor spirituality. It lies in conditioning. From an early age, we have been programmed to ignore everything that cannot be measured, analyzed, or controlled. We learn to doubt ourselves, to silence our intuition, to ridicule what does not fit the dominant narrative of objective reality. School taught you to memorize formulas, but not to observe the signs. Society rewarded linear thinking but ignored symbolic wisdom. You learned to use the mind like a scalpel, cutting, dividing, classifying, but never learned to use the mind like a radar, like an instrument of deep listening. The result? When the universe speaks, you don't hear. When life whispers, you rationalize. When reality tries to push you onto your path, you resist, because you don't recognize the push as a message, but as a threat. The truth is harsh. We have been trained to live in a truncated way. We cut off the channels that connect us to the unconscious, to instinct, to the hidden meaning of things. We replaced symbolic perception with productivity, intuition with efficiency, mystery with control. And with that, we lost something essential: the sensitivity to perceive when reality is trying to guide us. Have you ever had a strong intuition that you should or shouldn't do something and ignored it? Have you ever felt a strange calling, an inexplicable urge, and chose to be rational? Have you ever had the feeling that something was wrong, even when everything seemed right, and still went ahead, only to regret it later? This is not failure, it is training. We have been conditioned not to trust ourselves. The modern world has created a cult of logic. Everything that escapes objectivity is labeled as belief, mysticism, delusion. But Jung clearly saw what this thinking ignores. There is a part of reality that cannot be explained with numbers, but is absolutely real. It is the territory of the symbol, the metaphor, the archetype. It is there that the soul communicates with the world. Life speaks to you through symbols, not explanations. A recurring number, a vivid dream, an unexpected encounter, a sudden urge to change course, turn a corner, make a choice. These are the means by which the collective unconscious tries to break through the rational armor of your mind and make you realize you are not alone in this process. But if you haven't learned to recognize these languages, you will continue to feel lost. You will keep searching for answers where there are only formulas. You will continue to believe that you are in control, when in fact, you are being swept along by the invisible current of unconsciousness. Yet there is something curious. Even the most skeptical people, when faced with true synchronicity, one of those coincidences that sends shivers down the spine, feel that something different is happening. They may not admit it. They may try to explain it, but they feel it. Because the body knows, the soul knows. Something within them remembers what it was like to live in tune with life. And it is this point of remembrance that we want to activate in this video. In the next part, we will talk about something that can radically transform your way of living. What happens when you finally start to follow these signs? Because there are people who do this, and their lives are different, very different. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my ebooks. Beyond the Shadow breaks down Jung's core ideas, while Dialogues with the Unconscious gives you a 30-day path to apply them in your life. Both are linked in the pinned comment. Most people go through life trying to control every detail. They plan, analyze, anticipate. They believe that if they do everything right, life will reward them with predictability, stability, and security. But in practice, what they often find is anxiety, frustration, and an inexplicable emptiness. As if, despite all the effort, something essential is missing. And it is. What is missing is flow, alignment, meaning. And that is exactly what people who learn to follow their synchronicities experience. They live at a different rhythm. While the world rushes to meet imposed goals, these people walk in a more fluid, more connected way, almost as if guided by an invisible compass. And perhaps they are. Carl Jung observed this in various patients throughout his life. When someone began to recognize and respect synchronicities instead of dismissing them, their psyche would reorganize. Internal chaos would give way to a symbolic order, where the pieces finally began to fit together. Coincidences ceased to be curious and became guides. Paths opened not through brutal effort, but through attunement with something greater. People who follow their synchronicities do not live waiting for miracles. They do not outsource their decisions to fate. What they do is something much more powerful. They listen. They pay close attention to the symbols that arise in their lives. They take subtle impulses seriously. They respect moments of silence, strange dreams, and improbable encounters. And it is in this space of listening that something surprising begins to happen. Life starts to respond. Opportunities arise from where there were none. People appear at the exact moment they are needed. Situations that seemed blocked become unblocked effortlessly. Not because these people are lucky, but because they are in alignment with their own inner journey. They have stopped fighting against the river. They have started to swim with it. These people live with more meaning. Not because everything is easy, but because everything is perceived as part of a greater path. Even suffering changes form. A loss is not just pain, it is also transition. A failure is not the end, it is a redirection. An unexpected encounter is not just coincidence, it is a message. Life transforms from a battlefield into a symbolic field, And this changes absolutely everything. Jung wrote that whoever looks outside dreams, whoever looks inside awakens. Synchronicities are the meeting point between the external and internal world. They are the bridge. When you cross this bridge, your life becomes less about making it work and more about noticing what is right now. You begin to trust in something that cannot be explained, but that can and must be lived. And here is the most powerful detail. The more you follow synchronicities, the more they appear. It's as if the universe says, now you are paying attention, so let me show you more. And it does. But not everyone is ready to see, and not every coincidence carries a deep meaning. So how do you distinguish what is real from what is illusion? How do you recognize a true synchronicity and not fall into the traps of desire, self-deception, or magical thinking? In the next part, we will explore the real signs, those coincidences that are so precise, so impossible, that the rational mind simply cannot explain. Not every coincidence is synchronicity. Sometimes a repeated number is just a number. A strange dream is merely a reflection of what you had for dinner the night before. The human mind is trained to find patterns, even when they don't exist. And that's why many dismiss synchronicities as pure illusion. But Jung was careful. He didn't say that every coincidence had a hidden meaning. What he claimed is that some coincidences are so improbable, so precise, so laden with psychic significance, that ignoring them is to ignore the very soul trying to speak. Let's make this clear. Synchronicity is not superstition. It's not seeing a black cat and thinking the universe is against you. It's when something external and something internal connect in such an improbable way that the only plausible explanation is that there is something more. A field of meaning that unites the external world with subjective experience. Jung lived and documented various experiences like this. One of the most well-known is the story of the rationalist patient who was stuck in her therapeutic process. Skeptical, inflexible, mentally rigid. During a session, she told Jung that she had dreamed of a golden scarab, a symbol of rebirth in ancient Egypt. As she described the dream, a noise was heard at the window. Jung got up and found an insect trying to enter, a beetle with golden reflections. It was the European equivalent of the Egyptian scarab. Jung took the insect and handed it to the patient, saying, "Here is your scarab." That woman, who had previously been inaccessible, was in shock. The coincidence was so absurd, so laden with personal meaning, that it broke her rational armor. And that was where the process of transformation truly began. This type of event cannot be explained with statistics. It touches another dimension of human experience, the symbolic dimension. Perhaps you have also experienced something like this, thinking of someone out of the blue, and that person calls you, having a sudden intuition to change your route home and, by doing so, avoiding an accident or meeting someone important. Opening a random book and reading exactly the sentence you needed to make a decision. Repeatedly encountering the same symbols, a word, an image, a number, in completely different contexts, always when you are going through an internal dilemma. These are the moments when life seems to look you in the eye. And in those moments, you know. Not because someone convinced you, but because something inside you recognizes this is not just chance. And the more intense the crisis, the stronger the call. People in moments of rupture, unexpected layoffs, breakups, existential crises, often report a dramatic increase in significant coincidences. It's as if reality is trying to show that no matter how chaotic everything seems, there is an invisible thread connecting the events, a hidden path being drawn in real time. You can call it fate. You can call it the collective unconscious, universal intelligence. Jung didn't care about the names. What mattered was recognizing the phenomenon and accepting it as a legitimate part of the human psyche. Synchronicity doesn't require you to believe, it requires you to be present, to be attentive, because it happens whether you want it to or not. But it only changes your life if you are awake enough to see it. And when you start to see and to trust, everything changes. But how do you do this in practice? How do you begin to listen to life? How do you develop the sensitivity to perceive the signs and respond to them with courage, not doubt? In the next part, we will reveal how you can tune your internal radar, how to discern when something is just noise from the mind, and when it is existence itself trying to guide you. Listening to life is not an esoteric skill. It does not require supernatural gifts, mediumship, or any mystical ritual. It is, above all, a disposition, a conscious choice to step out of autopilot and start paying attention. Because the truth is that the signs have always been there. They have never stopped appearing. What has changed is your ability to listen. But listen to what, exactly? Listen to the sudden urge to call someone and find out that this person needed to hear your voice. Listen to the persistent discomfort you feel when visiting a place, maintaining a relationship, or following a path that seems right, but silences your soul. Listen to that strange shiver when something aligns in an inexplicable way. Listen to the patterns that repeat. Dreams, words, symbols, encounters. Listen not with your ears, but with your body, with your heart, with your intuition. The first step is to slow down, because while you are running all the time, trying to control every aspect of your life, you become deaf. Synchronicity does not shout, it whispers, and only those who create internal silence can hear. Take moments to be silent. Observe your feelings. Write down your dreams. Pay attention to sudden impulses, strange repetitions, symbols that appear out of nowhere. This is not superstition. It is psychological sensitivity. The second step is to trust. And here lies the greatest challenge. You have been conditioned to distrust everything that cannot be proven. But what Jung proposes is a silent revolution. He invites you to trust in something deeper than reason. To trust that the universe, the unconscious, life, call it what you will, is communicating with you all the time. And that when you respond to this call, extraordinary things happen. And this brings us to the most important part of all, responding. Because noticing synchronicities without acting is like receiving an important letter and leaving it unopened. Life is trying to show you the way, but it is you who must walk it. Sometimes, following a sign means changing cities, ending a relationship, changing careers, calling someone, saying yes, saying no. The path is yours, but the invitation came from something greater. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, requires courage. And part of that courage is learning to follow what cannot be explained. Because not everything that is real can be proven. And not everything that is invisible is imaginary. Are you living in tune with this call? Or are you ignoring everything that does not fit into your rational plan? Are you paying attention to the small daily miracles? Or are you blinded by distractions, control, and haste? Perhaps the mere presence of this video in front of you right now is already a synchronicity. Perhaps you clicked without thinking. Perhaps you felt something strange upon hearing these words. Perhaps, on some level, something inside you has just awakened. Life is calling you. It calls you through coincidences, encounters, impulses, dreams. And you have two choices: to keep saying, "It's just chance," or to start living as someone who finally understood that nothing, absolutely nothing, is by chance. So tell me, when was the last time the universe spoke to you? Write in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. And most importantly, subscribe, because this channel is made for those who are awakening. And if you've made it this far, perhaps this awakening has already begun. Life is calling you. The question is, will you answer?